Welcome to Erotic by Nature. I'm Angela Thurston. This week's Unfiltered Conversation is about flirting with fantasy. For many years, I didn't fantasize. I did a little in my youth, and then I didn't, not really ever at all. And then after having, a very dark place within my sexuality, I started to flirt with fantasy again. I remember there was a time even I couldn't even fantasize in my dream state. I remember specifically having a couple dreams with Matthew McConaughey in them. And in one of them, he was standing behind me and he was just giving me these oh so gentle kisses up and down my neck. And I was getting so excited in my dream and in my physical body. And in my dream, I said to him, I can't do this. I'm married. Like somehow fantasizing in my dream state or even in my waking state was like having an affair or cheating on my partner. And it really isn't. And it really does help with achieving orgasms when you're in a place where they're not coming with very much ease. Another area where fantasy is very helpful that I find is we are fairly limited in our sexuality. And particularly if you're in a long-term relationship, let's face it, doing the same thing over and over again, you're not really going to want to because it's not exciting, it's boring. You've been there, you've done that. And so I think for a lot of women, particularly myself, fantasy is good because we're really limited in what actually is our sexual truth. We grow up being culturally imprinted and imprinted by our family as to the right way to be sexual and the wrong ways to be sexual. So a good way to begin to question what is your truth? What is it that truly lights your fire, gets you going, and arouses you? Letting go of all that you've been taught and just start playing with it in fantasy. And just because you fantasize about something, that doesn't mean that you're actually going to go do that in your real life. So if you want to explore other women, begin with a fantasy. If you want to explore anal sex, begin that with your fantasies. If you desire S&M or multiple partners at once, explore that in your fantasies. And you can begin by exploring it just in a self-pleasuring practice. And then it can open up a huge conversation for you and your partner to have. What does your partner fantasize with? About, I mean, not with, or maybe with, what does he use in his fantasies? Because if we don't question these things, how will we ever know what our truth is? I find that a lot of times if I'm only able to have one orgasm, that if I bring in some fantasies, it helps me get to the next level. And it's created this amazing dialogue with my partner where I can approach topics that I might not feel so comfortable with. It allows me an entry point of, this is something I discovered in my self-pleasuring practice when I was visualizing. And I ask, what are your thoughts about that? How do you feel about that? And you can explore with each other, what you can perceive that would look like if you were actually to bring those sexual explorations into your lives. And knowing that you really aren't going to be able to understand the emotional implications of it until you actually are in that scenario. But it allows for growth. It allows us to see where our triggers are. It allows us to see what things bring us pleasure that we might not have ever imagined before. So I do have some favorite fantasies that I use and are an almost guaranteed orgasm. Sometimes I can go from 0 to orgasm with exactly the right fantasy. So if you would like to share some of your fantasies, you can share them in the comments below, or you can email me and share your fantasy with me through email. And yeah, I would like to share a fantasy. I'm already at my 5 minutes. Normally I try to keep my videos 5 to 7 minutes, but you know, part of me wants to share a fantasy with you. So I will. One of my most favorite fantasies is actually me and my partner with another man, which I never thought in a million years I would ever explore that realm. And I don't know that anything will ever manifest from it, but it is really delicious to come up with the different scenarios of how a threesome can bring pleasure to each other. We're like, what are the different positions? Who would be doing what? What is my comfort level if my partner was to engage with the man in my fantasies? So I get to play with all of these, bring conversations into my life with my partner, and you know, you can even take it a step further and verbalize your fantasies while you're making love, as long as all parties are comfortable with it. So you get to see. So I totally encourage using fantasy, and I am always up for some good story. So even if it's not one of your personal stories, but it's stories that you have read in erotica, that's always good because you can put yourself in those positions to see. Try it on. How does that feel? What does that feel like inside my body? What sensations are coming up in my body? So you could send those to me as well. So happy fantasizing, happy orgasming, and may you have a pleasure-filled day. Until next time.